Good afternoon, guys. It's me again, Mr. Emeka, and we are going to be discussing economics again. The last session we had, I gave you a structural explanation on business organization. Today, I want to give you a tabular explanation that shows the various numbers of members or owners who can run these various enterprises. Now, looking at the board, you see the caption there, tabular explanation. You can see the way I separated it. I gave you the type of the enterprises, the number of the owners or members, and the examples of such companies. So that the reason why I put these examples, so that you can see how the company will look like. In case you see any name of any company, you can tell which company is public limited or private limited, or as the case may be. Now, the first we have here in the line is sole proprietorship. Sole proprietorship, as the name implies, is owned and run by one person, an individual. When an individual owns an enterprise, is referred to as sole proprietorship. Like the last time I explained sole proprietorship, I told you that sole proprietorship is a situation whereby an individual provides the capital and the resources needed to incorporate or start up a business in order to make profit. Sole proprietorship is an example of private enterprise. Now, in sole proprietorship, it is run by one man alone. An example of sole proprietorship is Emeka Beauty Venture. And I know you might have come across some of these kind of establishments. You see Obi Ventures, Chidema Ventures, King Refreshments. All these things are sole proprietorship. Now, the next in the line, that's number 2, is partnership. Partnership, if you look at the table here, you will notice that partnership is run by a range of people, 2 to 20 owners. It must not be more than 2 to 20 owners, according to the law of Karma 1990, which is Companies and Allied Matters Act. Companies Allied Matters Act 1990. This is the particular law, the company law, that spells out the number of people that should be running these various types of enterprises. That of partnership, the range is from 2 to 20. Anything more than 2 to 20 is no longer a partnership. Partnership is strictly focused on business venture. Unlike the corporate business renderers and services that is known as companies, unlike companies, partnership focuses on businesses. Now you can see 2 to 20 owners. An example of that is, you can see something like Biodu and Co. Enterprise, or Emeka and Ada Enterprise, or Waliu and Mustafa Enterprise, or it can be Mohammed and Co. Enterprise. Depending on that, when you see such name, you know that that is a partnership. Now let's move to the next one. The next one, we have now gradually entered into company. If you remember the last class I gave you various types of company. I separated sole proprietorship from company. Sole proprietorship and partnership are under business ventures, while companies are under what? The corporate world. Now, the first one we have here is private limited liability company. Private limited liability company should be run by the range of people that is not more than 50, from 2 to 50 owners. 2 to 50 owners, according to the Karma, is allowed to run a private limited liability company. Now, an example of private limited liability company is, you can see what I have on the board, King's Oil Nigeria Limited. In fact, any name, any company you see LTD at the back of it, at the back of the name, is a limited liability company. Now, let me still throw one or two light, though I cannot write it down, but just listen to my voice. If you don't get it, you can play it over again so that you get the full check. Let me still talk more on private limited liability company. Why are they called private limited liability company? They are called private limited liability company because they have only ordinary owners, ordinary shareholders. ordinary share owners. That is to say, the people that owns it are the real owners. They don't sell shares. Private limited liability company don't sell shares. And most of the time, private limited liability companies are not incorporated. They are not what? Listed. Sorry, they are not enlisted in a stock exchange. That is to say, their shares is not out there for sale. Private limited liability company are strictly owned by the real owners. The profit is being shared within the real owners. As such, the liability there is at the event of winding up, or whenever this business is closed or they decide to end the business, every existing credit or creditors or every existing expenses or liquidation expenses that will come up will be taken care of by these owners, and it must not be more than 2 to 50 owners. Now let's move to the next one. The next one is public-private limited liability company. Public-private limited liability company. A lot of people get this confused for public enterprises. You say, why is it public? Why is it public? Because it is public, it is no longer a private company. No. There's public-private limited liability company. The reason why it is called public is because of the range of people involved. Now, for the people that must be members or owners of the public limited liability company, it must not be less than 7 members or 7 owners. But the range is not identified. It is 7 to infinity owner. A public limited liability company can be owned by a whole country, if possible. If the whole country decides to buy shares in that company, the whole country can be owner of a company. So public limited liability company does not have an extent, but it has a beginning, which is from 7 members. Anything less than 7 cannot be regarded to as a public-private limited liability company. Now, public-private limited liability company, an example of public-private limited liability company is First Bank Nigeria, PLC, Union Bank, PLC. In fact, any company you see PLC at the back, this sign PLC is a public-private limited liability company. And in terms of the shares of public limited liability company, they are usually enlisted. They are usually enlisted in the stock exchange. Their shares is always there for sale. You can go down to the stock exchange to buy their shares, or you can contact their brokers to buy their shares, provided you agreed on a brokerage that you will pay him later. Now, these shares can come into 2 dimensions. Remember I told you the shares for private limited liability company is only ordinary shares. We only have ordinary shareholders in private limited liability company. But in terms of public limited liability company, we have what? The ordinary shareholders and the preferential shareholders. Ordinary shareholders and preferential shareholders. The ordinary shareholders are the true owners. These are the people that contributed the money for incorporating and starting of the business. These are the people whose name is in the letter of incorporation when the business is being created. Then preferential shareholders are those who subscribe. You can recall 5 years or 6 years back when shares was all over Nigeria, that people are buying shares. People were buying shares to make gain, but they were never educated on how the shares goes. Mind you, the profit or the gain or reward for shares is dividend. People thought you buy shares and you start reaping dividend. They don't put in consideration that sometimes companies make loss. Dividend can be seized. But that is by the way. What I'm trying to say is we only have ordinary shareholders and preferential shareholders in public limited liability company. Now, preferential shares are those shares that are not They are not prone to being increased more than the agreed dividend. They remain the same. However, if profit is not made in the present year, their profit or their dividend can be carried over to the next year, provided when profit is being made. But those who suffer the real risk, who suffer the real loss and enjoy the junk profit is the ordinary share owners. They are seen as the what? Original owners. An example I've told you, an example of that is First Bank PLC or any other company you see PLC at the back. Then we move to the next one, public corporation. Public corporation is public enterprise. Public corporation are all these businesses run by government to ensure that the welfare of the people is put in place, like provision of social amenities like pipe-borne water, creation of roads, education, and others. Those are public corporations, and they are run and owned by the government. They are not owned by any individual. An example of such is NNPC. NNPC, we have NTA and others. So they are just there for the main purpose of making what? Creating services to the masses. It's not there, they are not there for profit making. Although they make money, but the money goes back to the purse of the government to serve the greater population who are the publics. Then the next one is companies limited by guarantee. These are usually the NGOs you see around when few people come together and say, let us start up a company, not just for the purpose of making profit, for their own interest. When this company is being created for their own interest or a particular interest, either to help people for humanitarian reason or either to be like an ombudsman to the country to checkmate the work and to checkmate the efficacy and efficiency of the government and others. Those companies are called what? Company limited by guarantee. The guarantee there is the owners have signed a written agreement that whenever this company comes to end or liquidate, they are going to take care of what? The liquidation cost and pay off all the creditor of the company at the event of liquidation. The numbers are not specified. It can be 1 million, 1,000, 20 people, 5, but it must not be more than 2 people. It must not be less than 2 people rather. So it can be 2 to any amount of person. Even a person can even own a person can own a company limited by guarantee. An example of company limited by guarantee is Bill Gates and Melinda Gates. So on this, you can see I wrote here an example. The examples are NGO and clubs. On this note, I believe I have given you a clearer view of what I gave you earlier on. Still, click the like button and always watch this. And as we give you more, and God bless you. Bye for now.